Okay, I just took apart the wet bay, or really the panel in front of the wet bay. It's a fair amount of work. There's a lot of screws and things and hoses you have to disconnect to be able to get this far. So we'll just get a quick shot of this for reference. Here is where these are the connections for the water filter. All the low point drains in the gray and black tank rinses. We had the city selector here, obviously the shower hose. These are the A and B connections for winterizing, the Sanacon valve, and then we've got the gray and black valves here. So I'm going to walk over to the wet bay. Oh, this is where the silverleaf panel and the Sanacon switch go. Or I'm sorry, not the Sanacon switch, but the water pump fill and autofill switches. So if we come over here, that's the convector for keeping this area heated in the winter. We've got the water pump. We have the A hose is on the left here, and the B hose is on the bottom. We have the black tank the black tank rinse, low point drain, gray tank rinse. So that's black, that's gray tank rinse, low point drain. I'm reading those off the label. This is the black tank rinse, the input, the gray tank rinse. That's our auto tank fill, city supply, manual tank fill valve here. This is a hot water line, so this went over to the shower on the left here in the wet bay, and that's the cold water line. So that was the cold water line for the shower there. And then these are the hoses that go to the filter. The only thing I did not have to disconnect these. I tried. It was, these are. I'll be putting these back into place. So I tried, and it was proving too difficult. So I'm going to be putting these back together. What I was able to do is just leave this all connected, and instead, when you're taking the panel off, you're reaching down behind the panel and twisting these. This, you can move this around and twisting these to angle them through the hole in the plate here. So that's how I got these through, because I didn't see a way for the handles to come off. These are the black and the gray tank valves. So I took the handles off of those. This is also the water tap in front. So that's what that guy is. I think the most challenging part is going to be when I reassemble this is these are mounted to the panel like this, and reaching behind and securing this and getting the holes through is going to be challenging, but that's how all four of these are mounted up. You can see all the remnants of the screws and hardware. There's a lot. So the reason I'm doing this is part of this is left over from the accident, and some before the accident as well. My gray tank reading was erratic. It would read 0 1 second and 53 the next second, 100 the next second. When I got it back from repairs, it was now in a permanent fault state. So I'm getting no reading, and it says, the silver leaf panel says fault, 0 volts. So the sensor's not getting a reading at all. We swapped the sensor, which connectors, which is in the TM102 in the basement to the left here. We swapped the black and gray sensors. The problem followed the wire, so we know it's not the controller, the 102. So it's something between the wire and something in here. So I wanted to figure that out at some point, and I was not quite ready to do that yet. But today, my water pump Yeah. So I turn on the water pump. Nothing happens. The light comes on, but nothing happens. I thought I heard the relay before. I'm not hearing it right now. So now because that's not working, I've taken this apart so I can try and solve both problems. And I will probably make a follow-up video to document any other things that I've learned throughout this process. I'll probably cover, where the sensors are and that sort of thing. Obviously, these are your tanks. Unfortunately, there's no visual, sort of backup that you can provide here. This also may present an opportunity for correcting the fact that the Sanacon system is mounted upside down. This needs to be basically flipped around 180 so that this is on the bottom. Or it could be flipped this way, but that would of course leave the hose facing the wrong direction. So I don't know how I would flip this around, because then the input is on the wrong side. So there's that. But this is all standard, PVC piping, so it would be theoretically possible to, maybe move the Sanacon to the right-hand side of the bay, but then you're dealing with the fact that the reel is over there and that this is here. So I haven't really thought this through yet. This is interesting. There's just kind of a screw here. The other thing I'll note too, when taking this apart, there's this metal piece that sort of sits across the top up there that provides support. This is actually not screwed in anywhere along the way here. It's just providing support and rigidity to the top of the entire panel. Yeah, all right, I think I'll stop here and hopefully have a successful follow-up video. Well, so because the water pump has multiple switches to it, it actually routes through the multiplex, the KIB multiplex system. So when I press this switch, or I press any one of the switches inside, or the switch on the Silverleaf panel, they will all control the water pump. And that actually comes in here. And you'll see that F7 is labeled water pump. So there's a fuse, of course, for F7. There's some relays in here. That was the clicking that I was hearing. And there are some status lights you hear. So with my hand off camera here, I'm going to turn on the water pump. You hear a click and you see the light. And what's happening, electrically everything seems to be okay, but the water pump seems to have problems. So I've now dismounted the water pump. You can see it tried right there. Oh, and it finally came on. It does not always come on, essentially, is what's happening. Alright, so it's supposed to be on right now, but it's not. But if I hit this, it comes on. So it looks like I've got a defective pump. So that's what I got to do now. So I think the presence of some connectors like these, and the fact that that this whole wet bay was rebuilt due to my accident, I wondered if this was the way it was done via the factory. So I did wonder if maybe I had an electrical problem in this area. So I went ahead and turned the pump switch on and got the pump into a state where it wasn't running. And then I started moving wires around, and sure enough, it was an electrical problem. So I found that this connector, which comes from the rear of the pump, it may be a little hard to tell. It's a little burnt. And the pressure switch, which I have disconnected from the front here, so the pressure switch here, right, sits here and can detect the pressure of the water here. So this is how the pump turns itself on and off based on the pressure. When I looked at the connector, you can see it's burnt. And if I move this around, it caused the pump to turn on and off. So definitely have a problem here. This looks like a pretty self-contained unit. What I don't know is whether or not that burn is a result of my connector or something wrong with the pressure switch. So I think I'm going to replace this and try again and see what happens. Otherwise, it looks like there is a part number for this. I checked the SureFlow website to understand the pump and all that and what this is. So there is a part number for this. Maybe I can just get a new one of these from them or something like that. So more to come. All right, well, sure enough, that's what it was. So here's my recrimped connector. I pulled, cut the old one off, found a 16-14 gauge crimped connector here, replaced that, turn on the pump, and it doesn't falter. It doesn't falter no matter what I do here, so this seems to be okay. So I wonder if this was a factory connection or something that the repair shop did. Well, probably not the repair shop. This looks like an original wire. It goes straight back to the motor, so that may actually be a factory defect from Pentax SureFlow. So, all right, well, that solves that problem. Now I got to go figure out what's going on with my sensors. Okay, onto the sensors. So, in between the two tanks, you can see the sensors. Okay, and we've got 3 wires coming up. And what they do is they connect into, let's see, I've disconnected one of them. Let me show you the one that's still connected. If I can get at it. Okay, so you see a telephone cord connected into a little board which connects into those 3 wires. And if I look at this one, I was trying to disconnect and reconnect the phone wire, and I couldn't get this one out. And when I took a closer look at it, there's some corrosion going on here. I don't know what it is, but this is probably not good. I literally, so I disconnected the other end, the sensor end. This telephone cord goes to the TM102. I'm literally unable to disconnect this. Pulling the tab down like a normal phone, and I cannot get this out. So I'm going to work at this and get it out. This is labeled Silverleaf. So if this is definitely if this is indeed a dead board, what I can do is just hopefully call them up and ask them for a new one, and that'll solve my issue. A couple of notes while I'm down here. So the convector I noted before, it's held up using using a block of wood on the top side to screw in. So it just provides a way provides something for the screw to go into. So that's how they've mounted it. I pulled that down a little bit because one of the other issues I had was one of the lines here, this supporting kind of curve support had fallen off or wasn't properly replaced during the repairs. So I had to work my hand back in here, and getting this down helped. And there's just a little metal board here that I pulled out as well to make my life easier. So I think that that's going to cover it. I don't know that there's anything else for me to cover in the wet bay here. I still need to mount and connect the pump and all that and get this bay working again. So it's probably going to sit disconnected until I have a new sensor board, or perhaps just cleaning the board will fix it. If I do get that repaired, or when I get that repaired, I will update y'all. Thanks. All right, I was unable to resurrect the connector. In fact, as I was trying to do so, I was finishing up with some compressed air on it, and that blew out one of the copper connectors inside, which meant it was so corroded it was weak enough to snap off with some compressed air. So I'm kind of glad that happened, because I would have replaced it with something that would have given me trouble down the road, and I would have to have done this all over again. So Just to get my water back up and functioning, I've actually reconnected everything, without the panel in front, and I thought I'd take a quick video of this. That might help you visualize what's actually going on, what's connected to what. So I'm just going to pan around here. Of course, I have not connected the flush inputs, since that's on those are connected to the panel. You can take them off the panel and connect them there, but that's not important. That's not pressurized. So, in the showers, dangling from here, got the water filter connected. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to close this bay door, but this is I'm still going to have to clean that off. That's the sensor that I have to reconnect. That's the other one. Currently connected. I really had to tighten these down more than I could do with a screwdriver. I needed to get a socket on here in order to get these tight enough, but not too tight that you'd start skipping threads, which I did do over here. I'm not worried about it at the moment, again, since that's not under pressure, but these were leaking. In fact, even here, I had to get these way tighter than I thought necessary to stop it from leaking. So it was actually good that I kind of did a test with this. I probably would have put that panel back on, turned on the water, and had a leak. So that's the control panel. Well, the pump is currently pressurized, so that's another go. Pump is working. I also took the opportunity. There is this flimsy board here, but there is a piece of plywood behind it. The mounting screws that were here were really not long enough to penetrate and hold the looks like the plywood back here. So I replaced these two front screws with longer screws. The screws in the rear do not, the plywood does not go back that far, so it's only screwing into this. So I left those screws the same and didn't screw them down as tight. But these are screwed down a little tighter than they were before and penetrate into wood, so that should give it a better mount than it had before. And these are obviously not going to be connected. I don't really need to run the Santicon anytime soon. So that's that. Feel free to ask questions about anything. Happy to reply. Thanks for watching.